Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, November 11th, 2022. I am Dave Biddle, very happy joined by Jonah Booker for his usual Friday visit. A lot to get into as usual, especially as usual the day before a game. Let's get to this, though. JBook, what's your concern level with Ohio State's running backs? Not just tomorrow against Indiana, but just going down the stretch here with Travion Mayan. They've been kind of banged up here and there. They've been kind of rotating games, sitting out and whatnot. What's your concern level here with Ohio State's running backs health situation?
I would say my concern level is probably around a 5, Dave. Can we get both of these guys together? I mean, one's in, one's out, one's in, one's out. That's kind of been the story over the last several weeks. And I truly believe because they aren't playing week in and week out, Dave, it does impact their readiness. So I feel like every time they come back, they have to knock off a little bit of rust and just getting that cohesiveness with the offensive line. I think that's been missing the last couple weeks. But as far as Henderson and Williams, I think they both play better when both guys are on the field, that they can really spill off each other. Mayan played his most snap or had his most carries that he's ever had last week. I don't think he's 100% healthy. During the Penn State game, you look at Henderson when he broke off that long run, he didn't look all the way healthy. So hopefully this week, both guys can go ahead and get in there and split the carries, because I think one thing that hurts them, Dave, is I don't know if those guys are built to hold up to 20, 25 carries each right now with the injuries lingering.
Let's move on to this. So Ohio State's offensive line, where are you at with this? And if something needs to improve, is it the scheme? Is it something Justin Fry is not doing? Are they not nasty enough? Just what if you needed? Or you can name more than one thing, but obviously, what's something that needs to improve here, JBook, on the O line?
I mean, you can talk about the nastiness, and I do think there's a little bit to that when it comes to, at the end of the day, getting a hat on a hat and knocking somebody off the football. But I also think the scheme does those guys a disservice. I think the way Ohio State running scheme is, as being a zone blocking scheme, just doesn't suit this offensive line. I feel like they need to be more gap running team. Get those big offensive linemen getting up to the second level and getting a hat on a hat and blowing guys off the football. When they're blocking sideways, they're just not good at it. You look at Paris Johnson, I think he's athletic enough to do this. I think Matthew Jones is struggling with his injury, the foot or the ankle, whatever it is. But I don't think he is mobile enough and agile enough to really do any type of damage when it comes to the zone blocking scheme. And right now, if you look at it, Dave, it's embarrassing. I mean, at the first half in the game against Northwestern, Williams had 12 carries for 21 yards against an undersized Northwestern team. I mean, you got defensive tackles that are 260 in there. If you're going to try to win this national championship, that will not cut it against Georgia, who is going to be bigger, more athletic, and more gap sound than what you're going to see against any other team in the Big Ten, including Michigan. So to me, I think, just the attitude of the offensive line, I don't know, it's questionable. You look at some of the effort, DeJuan struggling to get to the second level on some of those short yardage runs, and his guys was just basically scraping free and stuffing Mayan behind the line of scrimmage. So I do think a little bit of nastiness there, but, you look at what they did against Notre Dame, Dave, and just heading into the bye week, it was a dominant performance. They controlled the clock against Notre Dame, and for whatever reason, they have taken a dramatic step back. There are a lot of people that believe Ohio State's rushing attack is pretty given, meaning that whatever they line up in, teams have a beat on what they're going to do when it comes to running the football. So the question is, can Ryan Day adapt? Is he going to be stubborn and continue to beat his head against the door with a rushing attack that is not adequate right now? If other teams have the beat on you, you got to switch it up. You got to throw some wrinkles in there. Now, I'm curious to see how much they're going to be able to use CJ in the run game. I would say at least let CJ carry the ball 2 times a game to get it on tape for Michigan, so that the defensive ends have to respect his legs, and they're not just crashing down the line of scrimmage just enough to keep the opposing defense honest.
All right. So is this the week Emeka Egbuka takes one back to the house on a kick return or a punt return? I give a little shout out to Jalen Marshall, the last one to do it against Indiana, no less, 8 years ago, the national championship season. Jalen Marshall had 3 touchdowns that game. Buckeye has not returned a kick or a punt for a touchdown since then. Emeka had one earlier this year that was called back. They had 2 penalties on the play. Is this the week he gets it done?
I'm not betting on it, Dave. I mean, our special teams have taken a step back this year. I believe our punt return and kickoff returns like in the bottom 5% of all of college football. So it's been pretty poor this year when it comes to being able to use the return game to really flip the field. If they can get one, I would be pleasantly surprised. But if I had to bet, I would say no.
Yeah, I hear you. That would be you'd get good odds if you did. Like I don't know what if I was a bookie, what I don't know, put like plus 800 on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But maybe this is the week. I don't know. I feel he's going to break one eventually. All right, the game is 15 days away. Obviously,
Let's
Indiana
go.
tomorrow, Maryland in 8 days, and then the game 15 days away. What is your confidence level 1 to 10 on Ohio State winning the game 15 days from now?
I'm at a 7, Dave. I believe Ohio State still has certain flaws, certain kinks that they need to really get ironed out before that game. But I find it hard to believe that Ohio State will lose two in a row to that team up north, especially at home. I truly believe that Ryan Day has something in the back pocket there that he's not showing. I said it this week. I got Ohio State winning 34-24. I think it's going to be a game here where Ohio State will pull away late. The thing that I'm going to be most interested in, Dave, is if Ohio State jumps out on Michigan, how would they react? They have not been put in a situation to where the game is on JJ's shoulders. Well, for whatever reason, and I don't understand why, they do not want that kid to be throwing the football. He's throwing, he's dinking and dunking for 120, 125 yards a game. If Ohio State is able to get up there, slow Corum down, slow Edwards down in the running game, and get up 14-0, get up, 17-7, can they lead a drive off JJ's arm? That's what I'm curious to see. So I feel good going into this game, Dave. I know a lot of people have a nasty taste in their mouth after the Northwestern game. I still think the offensive line has yet to play their best football. I just find it very hard to believe that Ohio State would not be ready for that Michigan game. They've heard all the talk all season, all off season. They've talked about toughness, and it all stems from Michigan calling them out, calling the program a finesse program, calling them soft. And I just think that all of that buildup is going to be an opportunity for Ryan Day to really right the ship. I will say this, Dave. This is a legacy game. This right here is a legacy game for Ryan Day, and it's a legacy game for CJ Stroud. Ohio State fans would not let him live it down if he loses 2 in a row. And because the stakes are so high, I have Ohio State winning by at least 2 scores here in Columbus.
I'm going 9 on my confidence meter. And I would have said 10 in the offseason.
Okay, 10. Dave, let's go.
Like you got to come to Columbus. Like the last time they won in Columbus was 2000.
Yeah.
And Ohio State will be favored in this game. I have no doubt about it. It's going to be here in 15 days. I mean, you said it all. Like the way you described it sounded at least like an 8 to me. You said 7.
Yeah.
But the way you described it is kind of what I'm thinking too. But I'm going to go with a 9. Like, listen, I'm not ruling Michigan out. That's why I'm not going 10 or 9.5.
Right.
Even a little wiggle room there. They're certainly better than what I thought they'd be. I have no doubt Ohio State has been sandbagging some stuff and it's been saving some stuff. Michigan's been saving some stuff too. I have no doubt about that. I feel like Ohio State's been saving some more. And the revenge factor, the fact that it's at Ohio Stadium, and I do feel like Ohio State has the better roster, better coaching staff. You add it all up, I'm a 9 out of a 10. But like I said, JBook, I would have given it a 10 out of 10 during the offseason. So we'll see what happens.
I just think in this situation, Dave, that everything that's at stake You think about Ryan Day, though, he's really good in those get back games. When Dabo was running his mouth, saying that they shouldn't even be a top 10 team the way Dabo had them ranked. They took that personal, and they came out and he put his foot up Dabo's what, and they came out and played, ticked off Ohio State football. Those guys were flying around, and I view this as a similar situation. Jim Harbaugh was talking smack. The program was calling Ohio State out, calling them a soft Big 12 type of program. The talks have been all off season about who is the tougher team. And I will say this, Dave, at the end of the day, for the last, 18, 20 years, the team whoever rushes the most usually wins this football game. So can Jim Knowles and that defense slow them down? If they slow them down and CJ gets to cooking with that offense, I truly believe that it's going to put Michigan in an uncomfortable situation that they have yet to experience all this season, which is, hey, abandon the run, a kid that in JJ that we haven't asked to do much all season, now on the biggest stage in front of the probably, I would say, Dave, this is the biggest Ohio State Michigan game since '06. Asking him to come in there, which is going to be a very loud atmosphere, to sling it around the football field to get back in the game. So that's what I would say this, Dave, if Ohio State wins the toss, take the football and put the gas down right away. Let's go. Let's force Michigan to get out of their comfort zone, because if Michigan gets the ball first, what are they going to do, Dave? They're going to try to have a 7-minute drive to keep Ohio State's offense off the field. So that's why I think it's imperative for Ohio State to strike fast, strike early, and force Michigan to abandon the ball control, milking the clock, which they want to do.
I love that. It's just almost like a default for like football coaches to say, "Oh, we win the toss, we're going to defer." Like, there's a lot to be said. Now, there's a risk, but like scared money don't make money. Like,
Yeah.
like there is something to be said about getting out in front, getting that confidence, putting the other team behind the 8 ball, and then seeing what happens. And by the way, you mentioned JJ McCarthy not being able to throw the ball down the field. Not accurate down the field. Now, he does a lot well. He throws the ball underneath well. He dink and dunk very well. He can run the ball, but he's not accurate down the field. And we have to remember also, as you know, JBook, he's coming off season shoulder surgery on his throwing arm. I mean, That is obviously a huge deal for a quarterback. Like, that's like people don't even really talk about that much. You hear, you're like, yeah, he had off-season like shoulder surgery on his right arm. So yeah, I mean, if Ohio State can get up and force JJ to try and throw the ball down the field, I mean, especially at Ohio Stadium, it's going to be crazy in there. It is going to be absolutely crazy. All right, so we talked about that. We'll get to Indiana in a second. I want to ask you about this, though. I love this. So we were close. We predicted, well, you predicted all the upsets last week, and you'll take 2 out of 3, though. You predicted Bama will lose. You predicted Clemson would lose. Like, I love it. So Bama's out. I mean, it would take like LSU losing like at Arkansas and losing at Mississippi State and Bama winning out. I mean, LSU might lose one of those games. I seriously doubt they're going to lose both. I hope not. So Bama is pretty much out. I mean,
right.
You could say they're out, period. Clemson pretty much out. I love it. How great was that?
It was awesome, Dave, just to get those teams out of there. Bama, shoot, they got to go to Ole Miss this weekend. That's not a given. Lane Kiffin, he usually can really dial it up against Nick Saban. I'm curious to see how invested this Alabama team is, knowing that they're out of the hunt here. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ole Miss beat them this weekend. But yeah, just getting them out of there. Dabo, the way they're running that offense, the way they're running that program, it's you knew it was just a matter of time that the house of cards fold there, and just getting Clemson out of there really helps. Ohio State and Michigan. I was actually almost drove my car off the road, Dave. I was listening to ESPN on XM, and they said the way things are shaking out, there is a very good chance that even the loser of Ohio State and Michigan might get in the playoffs. Like, they're saying that, depending on how it goes with TCU, if TCU, drops a game here, but if you're talking about Ohio State Michigan Classic there, then the playoff committee will be more likely to put a one-loss Ohio State and Michigan in there, maybe over an Oregon team, which will be hard to swallow that blowout loss against Georgia. So yeah, I think that it really helped Ohio State getting both of those teams out of there.
All right, Indiana tomorrow, another noon game. Boom, love it for you. 9 a.m. I don't know. Do you like? We talked about this. Do you like the 9 a.m. games out there?
Occasionally, when it's against a bunch of bums, I'm like, all right, let's get it in there, get it over with and stuff. But I'm more of a mid-afternoon game. Those 3:30 kickoffs, I think that's the sweet spot there. I know a lot of people don't like the primetime games because they don't want to deal with the anticipation all week. But for me, with the time change, it'll be a 10 o'clock game, so that's not too bad. But if it's a 9 o'clock game, I think this season played out well. I think it took all the way until October until we got a big noon kickoff. So that was pretty good there. And I will say this: get in, blow these guys out, get out of there. I think the weather's supposed to be pretty nasty there again this weekend, Dave.
I wouldn't say nasty. I mean, it's not gonna be
Yeah.
like it was. I mean, it's gonna be like 40s. I don't think,
Right.
but it's not gonna be dry. Might be a little windy. It's not gonna be nasty.
Okay. Yeah.
Ohio-ish.
Yeah, but I got the Buckeyes winning big. My score prediction, I gotta write it up tonight, but I think Ohio State 55-14 here. I think this is a situation where they get back on track. I can see easily CJ Stroud getting pulled, throwing 4 or 5 touchdowns there. The Heisman is at stake. A lot of Heisman voters, they aren't going to ding him for that Northwestern game because of the wind and the weather. A lot of teams or a lot of scouts also said that this is a game that they're going to throw the tape out because of the conditions. With Hendon Hooker losing to Georgia last weekend, I still think Stroud has the trophy to lose. So right now, as you're building that momentum towards Michigan, go ahead and pad those stats. Get you 4 or 5 touchdowns before the backups get in there. I would be highly upset, Dave, if we get into the fourth quarter and this is a ball game. So I'm expecting it to be a blowout here. I think Ohio State, rinses the taste out of their mouth. And the one thing that I really liked that I heard this week was the offensive line staying late after practice. They're hearing all the noise, Dave. They're hearing all of the chatter that they're not very good, that they're soft up front, that Ohio State can't run the football. The fact that the offensive line is taking it upon themselves to work just a little bit extra after practice this week, I think will pay off dividends.
And just as I told you, there was no chance of rain out. It says there's a 40% chance of rain on Saturday. I was looking at it earlier today. It said it was going to be dry. So 40% chance of rain, high of 44, low of 33 in Columbus. So sorry if I misled you there. Hopefully the 40%. Hopefully we get the 60%, not the 40%. All right, before I let you go, let me get your thoughts on recruiting. Anything that you're like, can be anything. It doesn't have to be anything that's going to happen like this weekend or anything. What are you keeping a close eye on right now when it comes to Ohio State football recruiting?
I think things are going to be quiet for the next 2 weeks, Dave. The one thing I'll keep an eye on that visitor list coming up for Michigan. Can Ohio State quietly get Caleb Downs up there? Keon Keeley, once again, is quiet. A lot of people thinking that the tables are slightly starting to turn towards Ohio State because there's some chatter out there that Alabama is going to have a shakeup when it comes to their defensive coordinator and defensive line coach, and that may be the one thing that pushes Keon towards Ohio State because he has that relationship with Larry Johnson. I know Jeremiah Smith from Florida is rumored to be headed up for the Michigan game. 5-star number 1 player or number 2 player behind Dylan Raiola in the 2024 class there. So I look at it as, hey, nothing's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, but keep an eye on who's going to be visiting for the Michigan game.
Great stuff as always from Jonah Booker. Really appreciate it, JBook. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. Join me tomorrow after the Ohio State-Indiana game for What We Learned Live. Right after the Ohio State-Indiana game, I'll be joined by Bill Kurlick for the latest on recruiting. Not a huge day, but a big day for recruiting for the Buckeyes. Not as big as it'll be here in 2 weeks for the Michigan game, but I'll be joined by Bill Kurlick, and then I'll be joined by Patrick Murphy and Steve Hellwagon immediately after post-game interview. So join me tomorrow for What We Learned Live right after the Ohio State-Indiana game. Thank you so much to Jonah Booker for his knowledge and wisdom. Always appreciate it, JBook. Thanks to all of you for tuning into the show. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend. Enjoy the show tomorrow, Bucknutters. Or enjoy the game tomorrow, Bucknutters, and the show.